This is a combined meeting of the Harpswell Select Board and Fire and Rescue Committee. I think what we'll do is start with Jonathan down there, introduce ourselves. Anybody watching will know who's who.
Jonathan Burbank, I'm a firefighter in Kenny's Harbor. I'm also the president of the Kenny's Harbor Fire Department.
Nelson Barter, Harpswell Neck Fire Department.
Harvey Poe, Harpswell Neck Rescue.
David Mercier, Fire Chief, Harpswell Neck.
Kevin Johnson, Select Board.
Jane Covey, Select Board.
Dave Chipman, Selectman, and Harpswell Neck Emeritus.
Ben Wallace Jr., Fire Chief for Kenny's Harbor and Orson Islands.
Ted Norman, President OBI, and also responder.
I'm Andy Highland at Port City Architecture.
Curtis Robinson, Port City Architecture.
Christy Ayana, Town Administrator.
Mike Drake, Fire Administrator.
Sorry, my initial introductions I forgot about. Port City Architecture is the reason why we're here,
Okay.
frankly. So, as a matter of fact, I think we just ought to start with you and
Great, okay. Well, I'll stand up here and.
Do we have
He's got me one right here. It's all set up, everything. Well, this is a real service here at your place. Again, I'm Andy Highland at Port City Architecture. So we were contracted a while back. Let's just see if the clicker works now. How about this way? Whoops. To take a look at putting together a kind of a building that would supplement the three different fire departments in the town of Harpswell, and a building that would meet current code and be able to accommodate paid staff in the future if needed, and really kind of be there for the town and to serve your future needs, if you would. So the three principal folks on it are myself, Curtis, that you just met, and Tom Saucier with Site Design Associates that we work with quite a bit. Port City, just for anybody in the audience that didn't know, we're a Portland-based architecture firm, and we specialize in public safety. Probably got about 15 or 20 public safety projects going right as we speak right now. So so the study process, this was just to kind of study and give you guys recommendations on where to go from here. First thing that we always do is not looking at any of the existing buildings that you have. Talk to all the chiefs and the town, and we try to come up with just a space program, just in written form. So we go through, what would this building need, down to pretty much every single room in it. And how many offices, how many apparatus bays, what do you need for growth, what are you going to need for bunk rooms. We kind of help vet that from our experience with other towns. So in the initial programming stage, and then with a circulation factor on it, we came up with a number of 13,646 square feet for the town. Now, where do we put it? That's always a big question. Where does it go? There's really not many choices in Harpswell. Harpswell's pretty much up and down. It's pretty vertical, all the land that's out there, especially land that the town owns. There was a location when we started that we kind of tweaked a little bit more. It was kind of right near the town offices over toward the transfer station road. And we took a look through there and actually wanted to put it, to really get the room that we need, put it right on the transfer station road and relocate that road a little bit to the south or west or whichever way this is here. Thank you. So this is looking at where the road is right now, kind of coming right up through the middle of this. The town has some good wetland information and soils information on this. So as we get off on the to the back here, there's a little stream coming down behind the TV station, that building right there. It's pretty steep up there, but right when you hit the road here, there's a good, pretty level location. There is kind of a depression in here. We tried to push it over as much as we could into the woods across the road. There is a vernal pool, and so the study was a ways ago, but it's probably still, we're just playing it safe, kind of kept it out of that setback for a vernal pool. So it was identified as vernal pool number 8, so we moved the whole building over. So it sort of kind of fell into this small ravine. It's right on that corner. And the plan would be we're going to need cisterns when we do this because we're going to have fire protection. So we plan to put a couple of pretty large, like 30,000 gallon cisterns to kind of help with the fill in that ravine. Here's kind of the plan of it. We always do drive-through bays. They're not necessarily drive-through. It just helps. You can really kind of orient apparatus both ways instead of one long 6-bay apparatus bay. It kind of shortens it up, makes it a little bit more compact, and gives you plenty of room really for flexibility for any kind of apparatus and whatever you need to do there. On the front, we have offices and then kind of living and training spaces in the middle, apparatus space, support spaces that are off of here. Some of the things we're going to do, there's some new OSHA laws coming up, and these days we're really focused on first responder safety. So when you go, looking at California right now, when you go into a fire these days, it's not just wood. Pretty much, half of your building's vinyl, vinyl decks, vinyl siding, vinyl posts, and there's all sorts of hazardous materials that, when they're burning, can kind of leave some toxic residue that you want to make sure that you get off. So we have decontamination rooms. If you come in from an event, that you can go into a shower, clean off, put your gear in the extractor and dryer. And we, like nowadays, move the gear storage out of the bays right now. Traditionally, it's always just been hanging in the bays. But we call this the hot zone. And that's where the apparatus are. That might still have some residual, kind of not necessarily carcinogens, but hazardous materials on it. You also, even with the Plymovent system, you get diesel fumes that aren't good for you, all the things that aren't good for you. So we try to keep those isolated into the app bays, keep the building itself in a positive pressure, so if any of the doors are open, the air always moves out to the app bay, and you're never kind of sucking in any of the dirty air into the building. So this on the end of it here is more the day room, dining room. This would kind of accommodate future live-in staff, bunk rooms on the end. And, we had some long debates on what do we need now, how do we build it? Do we build just for what we need today? I think we tried to compromise, with that, and look to try to build it once and to build it for what we thought is the foreseeable future. We've left. A lot of times we'll put some of this apparatus bay support spaces on the end. We kind of moved those in the middle, and that would allow us, and there is a little bit more room to add one more bay in the future if you ever needed to go to 4 double bays. So that would give you 8 kind of pieces of apparatus in there. So that's the floor plans of it. Is that where is it next?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. This is kind of magical. Cost, this is always the fun part. So we have a lot of current costs. Our projects are kind of rolling through a lot in Maine now for a super insulated, sustainable building. It's wood frame still, slab on grade, but all electric heat, is about $550 a square foot. That's not just the construction cost, that's the all-in cost. That includes any of our fees, furnishings, equipment. So it's pretty much a move-in number. So at $550 a square foot, that's finished turnkey, as they say, for a building. So we were able to reduce the number in the program. It was 13,646 down to about 11,900. Curtis was able to get pretty efficient with the floor plan as we went through, working it through with the committee. So at that 550, we were looking at about $6.5 million for the new building. We talked, I know this is getting expensive for a lot of communities. What we have started moving into sometimes is just taking the quality construction in the living areas, but using pre-engineered frames, at least, bays over the apparatus equipment. That's less, it's not really a lived-in area. Doors go up and down. It's not as essential, to keep it a 68-degree kind of temperature. It can be a little bit cooler. You just need to keep the equipment tempered. We were thinking that was going to save more. We've been talking to our pre-engineered contractors. They're a little bit concerned right now about steel costs, especially with potential tariffs coming out. A lot of our steel comes from China. So they've kind of started to hedge their bets. So about a $500,000 savings. So instead of that 6.5, it's really kind of 5.9 or 6 million, let's say, just going to the apparatus bay. Another thing we had discussed with the committee was just a complete pre-engineered building. Again, that number kind of went up. We're looking at maybe 5.5, so it's a million off. It's one that we would kind of have trouble recommending, I think, to do all pre-engineered. It's just a more difficult building to insulate. I think the lifespan of the building is a lot less, certainly less attractive, and heating and cooling costs. These are really rough. We just went into Berwick and a couple other recent stations, talked to the towns about how much their heating and cooling costs were. It looked like from the couple of the towns that we talked to, and again, this varies wildly depending on what your water sewer fees is, who you're getting your electricity from. But it was about 15 cents a square foot for a well-insulated building. Talking to our pre-engineered contractors, it was about double, so maybe 30 cents a square foot per month on a pre-engineered building. So about half of the savings on it. Doesn't make up necessarily completely right there for the for the first cost that you're in. Take quite a few years to make that savings. But again, there's a lot of factors. How quickly that building might degrade, how much maintenance it's going to need in the future. And the pre-engineered building would probably start to need more capital improvements sooner, be less durable, as well as just energy here. So let's see, and to get Curtis put in here, you can do third-party modeling. At some point, you get more serious about it and into it. Energy modeling is probably about $25,000 to do on a design that as you get closer, if you really want to see where those costs are. This is a rendering of what we are proposing. This would be, like I said, the wood frame building, kind of a composite clapboard look on the building. It'd be super insulated with the bays, a flat roof bay piece here that would be kind of the pre-engineered, maybe a portion or not. The other piece would still be steel. It'd be more conventionally steel framed. Either one, we really try to give you clear spans and no columns. in the app bays if we can. But something that we think would, fit in with the town, have more of a main rural look to it. Took Curtis a little while to get rid of the golf course grass on the front in our rendering program and put something a little more suitable, but he was able to do that. This is looking at it maybe from the other end, and again, this could either be, and we still can side it, so it's somewhere in between here. Even with the pre-engineered, we could maybe, build another kind of skin on it and side it with clapboards, or a kind of composite clapboards. But that's really kind of where we were looking. This would be the area here that you could maybe add a fourth bay and slide the parking down. Another rendering, so streets out here, you'd pull in and the front entrance is right on the kind of side of the building. This is kind of maybe what it might look like. The one thing we can't get away from would be a metal roof if we did it all in pre-engineered. Again, we can try to kind of maybe do some other facades around instead of the metal siding. But again, that starts to bring the cost back up. So where do we go from here? I think at this point, we've been working with the committee and then trying to, as best we can, fulfill everybody's, desires for this building. Next would be really kind of developing a financing package. How are you going to pay for it? Whichever one you pick. There's still, so we'll say there's still a lot of communities right now have been getting federal set-aside monies. There was the program to do that. I think we're looking at Thomaston's right now, looking at about $3.5 million that they feel pretty confident on. Freiburg was $4 million. Other towns in Maine, $2 million. So these are from the our congressional folks in Washington. This, the one that's going right now, I think the applications are due in March. You might be able to do it, but you might be kind of hard pressed. At least you have all this. What they're really looking for is to make sure that the communities, that the project has backing from the town, that they don't want to get you a grant and then have the building not pass. But that could potentially reduce it to $4.5–4 million, on local funding, if you were to go through that. And was supposed to be another year. It's kind of really up in the air with the administration change. I don't know if Elon Musk is going to completely, go through and scrap the program or not, and nobody does really. I can say that I would think it would be kind of hard fought for the congressional folks, because this kind of set-aside money, the money that they bring home to their communities, is, I think, probably pretty important to your House of Representatives, representatives and your senators. So maybe I can't prognosticate about it, but there is supposed to be another year of potential funding for it. So either it's usually around in March that the applications are due. This is what they're looking for here, that you got a cost, you got a plan, you've thought about it, it's been in the works. The only other thing that they're really looking for is, what does the community feel about it? Does it have public support here? So I know from talking to other towns, they're not going to, you won't be considered if they haven't come out and kind of visited, seen the stations that you have here, and talked to your local representatives. So that's kind of really the next piece. We've never had that before in probably my 40 years of working. There's been grants for equipment, grants for programs. There's never really been grants for brick and mortar before now. So these last couple of years have been the first time for that. So some of this I would assume might go into borrowing plan unless you're the city of Portland and you can have a developer build it for you and pay lease payments. That's probably somewhere in a town vote. Once the funding was in place, the next steps would be construction documents and construction itself. We're recommending, we've talked about construction management at risk is a great way to do this for municipalities. You hire, once you get the money, once you start the drawings, you hire a construction manager, interview them. They'll do it at a percentage. Everything will be bid. Your drywall, your plumbing, your electricity, they all get 3 bids, and the construction manager will give you a price, say 4%, to kind of manage the piece. But they'll give you a gross maximum price, so they're at risk that it'll never go over that. If it does, it's coming out of their pocket. So they'll go at risk for the town. So it's a pretty safe way to do it, because as a town, once you commit to a number, there's no going back. We can't go back to the voters and say, oh yeah, sorry, we were $250,000 short. So whatever number gets voted on is the number, and we make the project work to that. Whole thing there, probably 6 months of be going through planning boards and going through design, and then probably a year of construction, and then you're home free. It's all done. So that's our presentation for you. And Curtis and I are here for questions, and so you shoot away whenever you like.
So, square foot costs, initially on the last plan, it was $390 and $420, depending on the type of space. The number I see here is $550, but that's not the number for the building that we're looking at.
Pre-engineered, I have like $440 is what I'm getting for the pre-engineered side of.
They've hedged, we just talked to people. They were looking at $390, and I think they are concerned. So there were 2 things in this one. This is not just, we could probably get closer to that $390 number with a really traditional looking pre-engineered building with a very shallow roof pitch, all metal, and just one big kind of, span, a square box. Trying to get it into something that looked a little more attractive and kind of our T or L-shaped here. They brought their numbers up a bit. And then, again, the other piece of it is the industry is very concerned about steel costs.
So the prefab is at $420 a square foot now? Okay, and what about the wood frame for the other section? What's that at a square foot?
That's still at 5.
Yeah, all in. So 80% of that's probably about at $550. We usually do 80-20, 82-18, something like that. So your soft costs are 18 to 20% of that $550. And don't make me do math up here without a calculator. But and 80 to 82% of that are really your kind of hard costs of the site, of the building, et cetera. And the other 18 to 20% of that $550 are soft costs, or furniture, equipment, our fees, permitting, all those type, DEP, anything like that. All of those costs are about 18%.
I get that, but if we're gonna stay with wood frame on the living and office spaces, right? What's the square foot cost on, right? Because we're talking about the difference between all metal prefab or metal prefab and wood frames.
So the total, I hope you've calculated that correctly, is $6 million about. Is that 5.9 million, and that was $550 a foot for the wood frame,
For the living
and
portion,
400 and something.
It's like $440 is what I'm getting for the pre-engineered side.
Yeah.
All right, that's what I-
So like $90 a square foot less, something like that.
okay.
And these are just, I think, I feel pretty confident quoting these numbers to you. They're today's number, only because, we've had a lot of recent, projects that have come out, and they're kind of, and we know what the most, yesterday's numbers essentially are. So we're tracking it pretty good. At COVID, so before in 2018, I would be sitting here telling you $350 a foot for wood frame, and super insulated building. And COVID, it went from 350, 300, 350 to 550.
Like a 2x4.
Yeah, and so, and as of now, I think it really hasn't come down. We're doing Franklin County Sheriff's Office. I think that came in at 520. That was a little tight, maybe 530. So might have come down a little bit. The one thing that it has done is stabilized. It's not going up anymore right now. So that's usually me. When I'm doing that.
looks like,
Standing up here, my wife's got an uncanny ability to call me when I stand with the microphone.
It looks like as far as funding goes, the difference between an all-metal and a metal and wood frame is, in borrowing, is $546,000 between the two versus the cost of operating it. We're talking $21,672 a year is your estimate.
Yeah,
It's a rough estimate.
22,000 a month or something like that. Yeah,
Plus
times 12.
the reduced lifespan to go fully metal, right?
Yeah, I think there's a reduced lifespan in there. I mean, they just don't, I mean, everybody knows what a metal building is. It just doesn't hold up. Even if we, build a CMU kind of wainscoting around it, keep it from getting dented at the bottom, keep snow off of it. It just doesn't really last as long, and harder to heat. I can't really spray foam the inside of the metal finish, so you got to use that kind of vinyl wrapped siding. They've gotten a lot better than they used to be, but they're still really kind of a different animal. That's why they're so much less. So I think it's appropriate for a app bay. I don't think it's really personally appropriate for living and working space.
John?
I don't quite follow the logic on it, just with the numbers you've given us. So,
Well,
$500,000 difference in price and $1,800 a month difference in heating costs.
Mhm.
That's like a 25-year payback. And I'm not even counting the borrowing costs. That's
Mhm.
just the raw numbers.
25 exactly.
Well, but it's more than that because, and nobody would do a project with a 25-year payback. So there's some other factor that's not in this report that must be driving the idea that it's worth spending another $500,000 for a construction type.
Yep, I can just tell you that you asked for numbers. This is as good as we can get, but there's a million factors in this that might add to that cost. So if we get into the life cycle costs, so I haven't gotten into, it's not just energy. That's not it. It's capital replacement of, windows, doors, or, metal. It's upkeep on the building. It's not just energy, it's the building's just not gonna last as long. So, and it's gonna look very worn in, 15, 20 years, maybe 15 years. It's gonna look old. A pre-engineered building does. So, I mean, you can go anywhere and look at them. So the quality of the construction's just not quite there. That's, it's up to you, the town, to look at it. But there's so many other, factors in that it would really take, somebody, actuary to tell you exactly what the numbers are. It's way, way beyond our, expertise as architects.
But I think bottom line is what we're saying is it's more, the estimate you have here for monthly costs, that's utilities and stuff. The cost of maintenance year over year is where the other differences we're gonna see, because metal buildings, more maintenance.
And I'm not gonna say, I'm not saying that it's not cheaper first, I'm not saying that it's not gonna, be overall cheaper, but I think it's gonna be more of a headache, I guess. You'd honestly, I think, if any of your friends are actuaries, then I would ask them to come in with all the different million criteria that really go into this. And so it's up to the town, it's not up to us. We're just trying to give you the numbers. I'm just trying to tell you what I think's the right way to go. Some of it, honestly, it's just kind of what I feel and kind of know from my experience. But there's no way we can calculate the exact economic figures of it.
How many metal buildings have you actually been involved in construction?
Not numerous, yeah.
I mean, recently.
Numerous. I mean, we work with Patco Construction quite a bit, so it's not just.
Fire stations,
Oh,
I
for
guess.
fire stations.
Fire-
Rumford, we just did. That's just opened up recently. We were kind of forced into that because they went. They got their bond in 2019, and the station priced in 2020, and it went from, $5 million to $7.2 million. So we had to come up with some ways to meet that new, to get back to $5 million. And so that looks pretty good. I mean, if you get up that way or get some pictures of Rumford, the apparatus bay is pre-engineered, and the rest of the building's stick framed on it. And so the contractor, if you talk to Allied Cook Construction, they would say, it was the biggest, most painful thing in the world trying to marry a pre-engineered building to a regular stick frame building, but that wasn't really designed that way. This one would just be it would be a lot easier to meld the two together. So we're looking now at ways to do it that really kind of leave you a big square box for the pre-engineered. We'll stick frame over to it, and the connections, we've tried to account for the connections better. Other questions, I'm sure?
No. Anything along there? No?
I'm good.
Okay. I think part of it also in here, Curtis, we had a little bump factor for just some rural construction, since we're not on town water and sewer, just to be able to, you have to sprinkle this building still, so kind of the cost of the cisterns and cost of fire pumps that would, power that. So they add a little bit to it, but maybe only in the 100,000 or 200,000 of the whole project. So,
Original estimate for that was
It was like
180.
180.
That change?
no.
For the sprinkler system, was 180?
No.
No, the site
That
back there.
site,
The rural factor.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yep.
gotta bring your own well, gotta bring your own septic.
Yeah.
Gotta bring your own water.
Just like home.
Yeah.
Does the price include a cement apparatus bay or painted?
For so, at this level that we're flying right now, I mean, we could go for either, and it depends on other costs. We're just telling you, at this level, we haven't done a full, piece by piece, estimate on the project. So yeah, probably wouldn't. You're not going to epoxy paint it. I think that's like $30,000 or $40,000. That usually gets value engineered first thing, But so on the floors, if that's what you're asking, in the app bays. So maybe this one's smaller. Maybe this is 20-something thousand, but. Of all the needs, a lot of times, when you're working in the construction, that one tends to, fall more by the wayside. So maybe, maybe we could paint the base. It depends.
Basic question, is it built on a slab or
Yeah.
a basement?
Yes, slab on grade. We think that's the best, especially out here too. Walking around the site, and probably everywhere in Harpswell, it's probably 14 inches of organic on rock. So I have a place in Phippsburg that's about the same way. So yes, slab on grade would be the most economical way to do this. And wood frame is too. The wood frame will give you a quality building, be highly insulated, and last a long time. And so we think that's the best system, that we have come up with. So, and it looks nice and fits in with the town.
Yep.
So,
I
You
know
know,
we talked a little bit about the heat pump issue, whether or not that was gonna have the capacity to actually heat this building when the temperature drops. Is that something,
it's something we're less and less concerned about now. So heat pumps have come a long way. Air-cooled heat pumps can get down pretty low right now in temperature and still maintain the building heat. So we used to do backup on it, backup heat. There's kind of less and less of that, but that'd be in the next phase. Our mechanical engineer, would be kind of going over that, with the committee.
That's where the insulation of the living space makes a difference.
Yeah.
I think so. When we did Yarmouth Public Safety Building, it was in the middle of the winter. We had just spray foamed everything in there. It was really cold out, and there were folks in T-shirts working inside with absolutely no heat in the building, just body heat, and power tools were keeping it warm, that they were literally in short-sleeve T-shirts and working. So, that's that's the low-hanging fruit of sustainability, I guess, is like super insulation, and we use the closed-cell foam. Keeps the other good things about that, keeps the dew point out of your building. So you never get that where the super cold on the outside gets through your insulation, and then the warm, moist air inside condensates and turns into mold inside your wall cavities. If you spray at least 3 inches of closed-cell foam, that'll never happen for you. When we spray it up in the eaves here, you never get that kind of pinched insulation when you put bad insulation at the ceiling level, and you have a roof that comes down. It gets pinched down to like 3 inches, and then heat comes through there, melts the snow on the roof, then it gets back over the eave. That's freezing cold again and freezes. You get icicles, ice dams, roof damage. So closed-cell foams are awesome material. I was so excited when they came out with it. It's probably not good when you're fighting a fire there with closed-cell foam. Probably.
Nothing in these buildings is any good.
Yeah, probably kind of gives you some off gas.
Conditioned attic space or unconditioned attic space?
Conditioned. So we usually, and that's another option for storage up there too, is some sort of trussed area that we can give you some, dead storage really kind of up in the attic. That's conditioned. Yeah, that's the other good thing I like about closed-cell foam. When we go right to the underside of the roof deck, everything up there is conditioned space. So you don't get water pipes condensating and leaking and dripping. Everything you put up there is in conditioned space. So I think it makes for a really quality building.
No, matter of fact, our heat pumps right now are online as of last week, so the heat you feel right now is it's a backup brand new boiler, but heat pumps are handling the load.
Yeah.
According to FAIR.
It's not very cold, Kevin.
What's that?
It's not very cold.
No, but they're good now. I mean, most of the buildings we're doing today are all electric and heat pumps, and either water source or air source. So I wouldn't do water source or geothermal on this. It'd be a lot of drilling through ledge in there. So probably take 30 wells or so. So that it's certainly more economical air source heat pumps. Okay.
Anything from you, David?
No, I've been absorbing all of this, so.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Included in this cost, I assume, is cost of a standby generator.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the whole building completely on a generator, that's included in the cost as well.
Okay.
That's standard fare. And it's, built to current, seismic standards, structural standards for an essential facility. So, when we get the big earthquake in Maine, that's supposed to come, that your building would still be standing here. So that's something that's newer in the code too that we have to comply with is, if there's a major climate event, hurricane, maybe we get a hurricane in Maine or high winds or floods, et cetera, that they want the police, fire, and hospitals to still be standing. So it would meet more stringent structural codes.
Power outages in this town are an art form.
And, you're probably similar to Phippsburg. They just happen like daily, kind of out there.
This one's on 3 phases.
Short one.
You're gonna be 3 times worse.
Yeah. And, a lot of stuff too, some of the buildings we're doing now with, solar as well. And we're looking for a building that's also resilient, and if we did the heat pumps here, like we're working in Auburn Public Safety now, making sure the refrigerant lines are covered, that if there was a big ice storm, that, nothing gets damaged, and either keep the mechanical equipment inside or well protected. So we're really looking to make sure that police and fire stations are, like I said, the last building standing in any kind of major event. So we want you guys to be in your building and ready to save the rest of us. So.
Wasn't there also talk of ensuring that these could be solar panel capable at some point in the future, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what at a minimum, we build in an area that we could have inverters, maybe in the bays, and then get at least conduit run toward. I don't want to penetrate through the roof until we did solar, but when we got into that part of the design, we would certainly be looking at that option. So, and maybe someday when the batteries get better, we can, power a building, more indefinitely with solar. But today, just like electric apparatus, we're not quite there yet. So, like self-driving cars. I've got my Tesla. I put it on self-driving, and I'd never do it again. So,
What could go wrong?
I think that's
scared the
problem.
heck out of me.
None of these roofs on this building are actually gonna really be facing south very well.
No, but so what we do there, if you do a shallower pitch, you only lose maybe 20%. If you're at ideally it's kind of like a 40, 45 degree pitch toward the south. If you can't pitch that way, like in Augusta, we went on a 412 pitch, put them on both sides. And the amount of loss by not pointing them right in the south is really actually a lot more minimal than you think. So we just kind of reduce the slope of the pitch. I think this is probably, I don't know, 6, I don't know, 8. We could maybe drop it a little bit, so it's kind of in that middle.
Well,
But that's things to look at.
There's always an option later if the town decided to do it. I mean, there's an outfit up in Pleasant Street that has the big panels the ground mounted panels. I mean,
The place in Brunswick that you drive by with all the,
Oh, yeah.
so, okay.
Yeah.
They
Well-
don't mount them on the roofs, they solely mount them on pedestals.
Yeah, yeah. So, all things to consider, in it, and what we couldn't do, we at least try to plan for, and some EV chargers, things like that. So, anyway, okay.
But to be precise, there's absolutely no solar anywhere in this proposal cost.
No.
That, to be precise, yes. Yeah. Not, to be honest, as there's no solar. There, we could put conduit for future solar, and that's about all we have in that price. Yeah, don't anybody get the wrong idea. So, I've had that happen before. At UNE, the president came out and we were doing a big building, and she said, "Oh, and the whole building's air conditioned," and we all went like, we all went, "Oh, that was a scramble." So it is now. It's all air conditioned. So. All right. Thank you so much, and we sincerely thank you for selecting Port City. It's been a pleasure working with everybody, and hope to, help you continue into the next phases of this project if you need us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, next steps for us.
Well, I'm thinking that the committee has reached a point where it may want to make a recommendation to the select board, that you sort of move it from the committee to the select board with a recommendation, if the committee chooses to.
Any discussion on
I
it?
mean, that's just where I'm thinking we're at from a process standpoint.
Yes.
I just got one little mental sticking point here, and it's actually gonna be in your territory anyway. As far as federal grant, tailoring a grant to this building, when we still have not made the decision on whether to go conventional construction or prefabricated construction, we will have to have one or the other of those in place to apply for the grant, I assume, unless you can say, if we receive this grant, we will upgrade. And I don't know if they'll bite on that.
Well, I think this committee ought to make a decision now
Yeah,
on which way we're headed.
Okay?
The impression I got as well is really, they're looking for these grants, they're looking for the public to have basically said, go ahead with this. So
Yeah,
wouldn't
but-
that be the March town meeting?
That would be town meeting, but we need the board, and we need the votes from the board to send it to the select board.
So one of my thoughts were, when I saw the number, was just the reason why I asked the question about the difference in cost between all metal and metal combination construction. I don't know what the cost is for borrowing, but it seems to me like the wood frame on the living portion of it is a better investment for the town.
I think it probably is.
You take the $21,000 a year versus, just over $500,000. I don't know what the borrowing is, really it's not my
Yeah.
issue to figure it out, but, if it was gonna cost way more to borrow that extra $500,000, then it's gonna cost you to operate
Yeah.
the building, I would be hesitant to recommend it.
No, and, we gotta look what grants are available, that, what they call direct directional spending. That's what these municipalities are getting, that's what they call it.
Who wants
Town of
Rybrook's
Hancock
money?
just got one, I saw it in the news this morning, for $1.5 million.
Who did?
I think the window on that is closed for the current year.
It is for the current year, but, yeah, I think Andy said March.
March for this
20,
next coming year.
20.
So I think
Yes.
I think the app, I'm not, yeah, I think it's early March, and that would be, you'd be notified
Yeah.
in like the late summer, fall. So it's
That's-
probably 9 months after that to get it.
When is town meeting?
8.
So just like one aside that a couple other communities are doing. Freiburg went out for a vote for the entire amount and lost the vote. They came back, even though they said, we're looking to get 4 million of this. Then they were doing, it was a big project, and they're doing the town hall, the fire and police in one. And then they came back and they said, okay, we'll go for, what is it? They're going for 8.5 million. They were like going for 12 or 16, or 16, that got voted down. They said 8.5, we kind of reduced the building down a little bit, and we're counting on a $4.5 million, grant from the feds. And Thomason's doing the same thing. They're going to vote in February 6th, I think, and they're bonding the town amount and hoping for the federal amount. But I think one thing that does is it tells your congressional committee that, yeah, the town's behind it. And now it almost kind of puts them in the position of like, oh, Susan Collins didn't, give us money to build our fire station. They almost look bad when it's all been voted for and you're waiting for them. So I think the only downside to that is if you do that and then the program gets canceled.
Exactly.
But,
Exactly.
but that's something to think about, is just the bond. You know, talk to your congressional committee, and right now, they're saying that it's still running, as far as everybody knows.
Is that deadline before the town meeting, though? If the town meeting is March 8th.
Yeah, you wouldn't, so even if
You would, it's fiscal, it's
you're not gonna do it this year.
fiscal next year, so
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
it would be impossible for anyone to tell you what that possibility is until they have an approved budget, which is
Right. It's a risk,
a big battle.
but it's something other towns are doing. They're, kind of taking the risk to, vote in what the town was gonna get and hoping that they're gonna get the federal subsidy.
But if they don't in that case, basically, they just lost a year of.
It's back to the drawing board. Yeah, you're right.
opportunity.
It's back to
So,
the drawing board.
Could I ask a slightly different question on this? The thing that I see is the numbers you got, and you said that, don't justify the incremental $500,000. You said actually doing the math to make that, to analyze that is not something that, Fort City could do. Who would be able to do it, and how long would it take them to do it? To say, listen, this is a good investment, but it's still $500,000, but it's a good investment over the long haul compared to the two choices. It's clearly not justified on economic means for the, utility type decision, but nobody would sign up for it.
I mean, I was, not half joking, but I mean, it's really like somebody with an actuary mind. I mean, because there's just honestly probably 50 variables or more in costs, and that I really can't even fathom. So I'm not really, I mean, somebody could try to do it for you. I'm not really sure. There's nobody that just kind of specializes in that I'm aware of, so, I mean, I think Curtis is saying, Thornton Tomasetti, which is kind of a big group. They might have somebody, they do a lot of sustainability consulting, and they might have somebody in-house. They're in Portland, but they're a national firm, so.
But this seems like a pretty common architectural type question, and oftentimes in that, there's pre-work done to say, okay, this is what your life cycle cost of this kind of construction is versus your life cycle cost of this kind of construction, so people can make economically justified.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's, like I said, a lot of pieces to that. So our mechanical engineer could kind of figure out, what kind of insulation you have in the wall, so many windows are there, what's your cost of, whether you're gonna use gas or electric heat or whatever, how much that is, and they can kind of come up with that energy piece, but they can't come up with, and maybe they can come up with, adding in, the life of the building and additional, capital expenses that might be on, one type of construction versus another, but it's, no matter how good they were, I'd be skeptical that they could really give you a definitive answer. It's gonna be a little bit better than mine,
Well, you can look around the town of Harpswell. My neighbor's got a metal building, it's 20 years old, and it looks at, the recycling plant is 41 or 42 years old, and it needs to be redone. Well, it's gonna be redone. It's 40 years and it's over, end of its lifespan, so.
Yeah.
My uncle's got a 320-year-old stick-built house.
Right.
I would like to hear from the committee on the overriding question of the three separate departments and a large central fire station. I mean, you guys have talked this over, and I've sort of waited for your answer to these questions, and I know you've been working on that. So.
But I think we're gonna do that at 6.
That's coming up later.
That's good, okay,
In this-
all right.
in the meeting.
But the committee itself, like, later, is that a subgroup that's reporting on some statistics?
In essence,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So I think David's asking the committee of 7, where you stand on kind of the idea of the central building and the concept.
Thank you,
If
Christie,
wanna
that's
make any
exactly my question.
Specific recommendations.
Because what we're
As a
looking at,
committee.
what we're looking at here, the central station, as if we had no other stations here, this is a full-blown, I mean, this is a palace.
There.
Yeah, this is an offshoot of that station, it's just in case the
But-
bridge goes out.
But I think
We
what the
know we
committee
have.
right now decides
Right,
whether we
yeah.
send it to the select
Three
board.
departments.
Yeah.
And then three of us can hash
Exactly.
it out after you see the presentation and whatever data.
That's what I'm
that,
hoping for, yeah.
Yeah, that Harvey and Chris and David pulled together.
Well, I would move that we send it to the selectmen, and we send the stick-built portion of the building has been recommended, because I'm interested in not coming back and looking this building in 15 years and saying, geez, maybe we should have done something different, and the cost to correct that is gonna exceed the $500,000 that we're gonna spend up front. We know that. That's just the reality of what happens when you you can pay me now, you can pay me later. But your recommendations indicated it's just a simple fact of life that a metal type construction does not have the longevity or the efficiency of the wood construction. So I would move that we move that design to the Board of Selectmen for their consideration.
I would second that. I think that not doing this stick-built portion of the building would be penny-wise and pound foolish.
Right?
Discussion.
The motion seconded. Any more conversation on this before we take a vote?
This means you guys are all for that size building, but stick-built.
Yeah,
I move that as a committee.
yeah.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah.
So not fully stick-built, you're talking
I
about
would
the
like-
living and office space.
I would
Right.
like to, only because Andy kind of glossed over it, I would like to say one important factor in answer to that question. I know there's a motion on the floor. When we started working on this project, we.
Would you
said-
slide that mic over so folks at home
When
can hear you?
we started working on this project, we have a fairly immediate need, which is that we currently are shuffling the town support firefighters back and forth between two of the stations, and it's not an optimal solution. And then longer term, we have a more indefinite need as the firefighter situation gets exacerbated by the age of all of us. And we tried to come up in the beginning with an idea that was sort of a compartmentalized view of the world of build what you really realistically need now, but have an easy and modular way to move forward. And what Port City provided us on that conversation was, that's not going to work very well. So the size of the building you have now is a balance between those two things of the immediate need that we have now, like we will start using the building right. The day it opens, people are going to go in this building and use it, right? And expansion capability for the foreseeable future of how the evolution of the firefighting part of the business is going to happen in town. And so to your questions, that what we have now is a balance between those two. It's bigger than we would use right away, and it might even be smaller, and we have an expansion capability in the base, might even be smaller than we're gonna need way down the line, who knows what way down the line is, but it's the best balance that the committee working on the project could come up with in terms of capacity of the building.
So talking this over, the equipment you'll put in here is some from each department to put in that building to use? Are we talking purchasing more equipment, more trucks?
No,
So
no,
so
the
each
immediate.
department will supply some equipment to go in there.
So I don't know how much the committee wants me to answer this versus other people, but basically, we would immediately take the fly car out of that building, which has its own deficiencies, and we would take Engine 9 out of Harpswell Neck, which is what
This is a town-owned.
which is a town-owned vehicle that the town firefighters are running with when they're over there. That's what goes in the building, first step.
First step.
If I could add to that. And part of the reason that we we said you really ought to get, more than just what you need today. Is if you look at how long it's taken you to get here right now.
Oh, yeah.
And you imagine that in the next phase,
No.
it's, and then the other big overriding factor is 2018, it was $350 a square foot to build. It's $550, 5 years, it's gonna be $850.
Yeah.
You're never gonna get it cheaper than you get today. And you'll also get, a contractor out there once mobilized once. You're not gonna have to bring them back out because you pay just to have them come out and do an addition. So doing a lot of small additions is gonna cost you way more than it would.
Just trying to get the big
build it
picture,
now.
because I haven't been
Yep,
part of
I
the
know.
conversation.
I'm just trying to bring you
Yeah.
up on
Yeah.
kind of the discussions we had.
And if any of the 3MS systems fail, like the ambulance crews, at some point, there'll be an ambulance up there,
Oh, yeah.
but everything. Municipal building.
Oh, yeah.
Garage won't go to waste. Town has enough things they need to
You can stick
store
in there.
inside, no
Yeah.
matter what.
It's clear that we've talked about it, it very well may morph into a public safety building, because there's thought of the harbor master storing his vessel there.
Keep the airboat in there.
Obviously, fire administrator will be there as, in his dual role as EMA, so we say a fire station, but in actuality, what we're building is a public safety building to provide more to the community than just the fire station.
No.
Greater value.
Any more discussion? Be motion seconded, give it discussion?
So I know that probably my voice is probably the one that's most feared, being the naysayer throughout. So, given that we're talking about sending this design and this size and so forth to the select board, OBI does not want to get in the way of that. We see the writing on the wall that this municipal structure is coming in the future. I get it. We've heard about it. That's understandable. So, you're not going to get a no vote right now if we're talking about sending the design and the size forward. We do have some operational questions which need to be answered, because there are some concerns and, but that's for a separate conversation.
Same committee.
In the committee,
Yep.
right, and we're gonna start with Ben, and then we'll work it through the group to work out the operational questions, but you won't get a no from us as far as the design and the size to go to the select board.
In that case,
I hope that helps.
all in favor of the motion that Dave presented, of the,
Unanimous.
well, not quite, but 4.
Jonathan?
I'm gonna say, I'm gonna say it. I prefer to say that I'm not voting no.
Abstain.
I'm still uncomfortable on happening in the house, just to put it up front. So, I think that we are raced, so let me just, maybe have an opportunity to basically say I'll vote yes, but with reason. We are racing against time. And it sounds like it's not going to be easy to get the answer of whether that's the right financial
No.
decision. Okay, so having laid that as the groundwork, I'm happy to support sending this to the select.
So, was it unanimous then? Yeah? Well, there we go. Thanks.
All right, so we got a set of minutes, and then I'm not sure what else you want to cover for this committee. So,
This is kind of it,
all right,
2016.
almost 2016.
18?
Well, I can tell you of a bathroom that took longer than that to build at the fire station.
Did,
I think we were close to 10 years waiting for a bathroom at Cundy's Harbor, weren't we, John?
must really had to go, at the end of it.
How long can you hold it?
Mike passed out the minutes, any questions,
Oh,
comments,
oh,
or
sorry.
amendments on the minutes?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to get that before we adjourn, just so
Yeah.
we can get it.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes of December 8th.
All right, we got two people that moved it, one of you want to second it? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. All right, so I guess we're adjourned till 6, so you guys get unadjourned.
Yep.
Good job.